All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Porfirio Chavarria with the City of Santa Fe Fire Department. Welcome to the Ready, Set, Go and GoKit webinar hosted by the Fireshed Coalition. I am going to go ahead and start. I'll please use the chat function. I am going to go ahead and share my screen with my presentation. All right. Well, as I said, the Greater Fireshed Coalition. Today we'll have the City Fire Department, Villages of Santa Fe, Forest Stewards Guild, and Santa Fe County Fire Department are all here with us today. Just want to give people some ground rules. Please be present, be kind, and be respectful to others. While we're doing this, please mute your mics. I recommend turning off your video until after we're done and we have the Q&A section. And then please post any questions and comments in the chat box. Myself and Sam Berry will be monitoring the chat box and answering questions there, as well as relaying those to the presenters today. This is the This is the Fireshed area. And if you don't know what a fireshed is, it's basically where a fire would burn and then impact all those resources where the fire is, but then also any of the area downstream of that, all those communities that would be affected by a large wildfire. And in our Santa Fe Fireshed, we wanted to think of thinking of fire at the scale of these large wildfires that we've been seeing recently. And so the area is about 100,000 acres and covers, from Glorieta all the way up to the ski basin. You can kind of see that here. The coalition has a fine group of partners, agency folks from the local, state, and federal level, but then also nonprofits like the Forest Stewards Guild, and then also other community groups like the Fat Tire Society, as well as tribal entities like Tsuki Pueblo are all involved in the coalition. And I encourage you to go to the Fireshed website and take a look at our mission and our goals. One thing I want to highlight is through this effort, we're really looking at trying to make communities fire adapted, and fire adapted meaning that communities understand wildfire's role in the ecosystem and are able to live with fire. That promoting prescribed burns, healthy forests, and being able to protect their homes in the event of a wildfire happens. You can visit the Santa Fe Fireshed.org website and find tons of resources on home hazard assessments, briefing papers. If you look on the events tab, we're constantly updating events, and you can go back to some of these webinars that we've done in the past, as well as I'd highlight in the top right, get involved and looking at signing up for our Fireshed Ambassador program. We meet every second Wednesday of every other month. Our next meeting will be on July 8th. And really it's a chance for citizens to get together and share their ideas on what they're accomplishing in their neighborhoods, as well as the challenges they're facing, and really coming together to figure out how we can solve all our problems together and what resources are out there, and just a way to connect with other folks in the Fireshed that are dealing with similar issues. And with that, I'm going to turn it over. We have two great presenters today. We have Remy Gillum from Santa Fe County Fire Department and Ann Church from Villages of Santa Fe. Remy's going to go over Ready, Set, Go. And then Ann Church is going to provide us with a way to create a really quick Go kit that you can have available for you in case you have to evacuate, and identify those items that you want to make sure you have with.
And Porf, I just wanted to mention that we're recording this, so we'll post this to the website later if you have neighbors or something that missed it and you want them to see it. So.
Yeah.
thoughts there.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. And so with that, I will now introduce Remington Gillum. He works for the for the Santa Fe County Fire Department. He'll be discussing Ready, Set, Go.
Hey, good morning. This is Remington Gillum with Santa Fe County Fire Department. I'm going to go over the Ready, Set, Go really quick. If you want to follow along at home or you want this information, this pamphlet, we have it on the county website. Right here, it's santafecounty.nm.gov. If you go to Departments and Fire Department, right there, and then underneath the Fire Department on the left here, you'll see Wildland. Just click on that, and it'll be right at the bottom of this page, right here. So this is the Ready, Set, Go. We put this together in conjunction with a few other agencies and Santa Fe City. This is a national program. It's in place all over the country. It's a really great program. It provides a lot of information to homeowners and ranchers. It goes over everything from defensible space to house hardening to evacuations. I'm going to go over the defensible space and everything up to the GoKit that Ann will go over later. So right here on page 3, excuse me, is it starts to get into defensible space. Defensible space works as Ready, Set, Go defines it in 3 different zones. Zone 1 is that stuff right up against your house, 0 to 30 feet. We recommend pruning all your trees, getting the low-lying branches off of the ground, mowing all the annual grasses, making sure you don't have shrubs and other combustibles underneath your trees, and having a minimum of 3 feet of non-combustibles around your house, like gravel or if you have like a flower bed or something like that that you regularly water, that's fine. Zone 2 is going to go into a little bit farther from the house up to 100 feet. And this is where you can go a little less. We still recommend pruning the trees and limbing them up so that you don't have ground fuels. You don't need to mow the dead grass all the way to the ground, but it'll say like right here underneath 8 inches. And then obviously removing all those needles and stuff like that. And zone 3 right here, it says, 100 to 200 feet, but this really extends out to your whole property as far as you want it to. It's really putting it back into the natural state, not having an overgrown tree stand where you can barely walk through it. You're kind of keeping that 10-foot distance between trees, and that's measured from the crown, which is the farthest branches sticking out from the tree. We're not measuring it from the trunks. I know some people get a little bit confused on that, but that's crown spacing. I talked about limbing up trees in all of the zones. That's part of your ladder fuels. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that, but the ladder fuel right here, it takes the fire from the ground into the trees. And if you get fire in the trees, then you're going to get more embers flying through the air. And those embers are what generally light structures on fire. And the less ember caps that we have, the less likelihood we have of a structure catching on fire. So we want to make sure that we're really taking care of those ladder fuels. Also on another note, I'll go over it in a minute, but Santa Fe County did adopt the 2015 International Wildland Urban Interface Code, and that applies to all new construction. So I'll show you where you can access that as well. But in that Wildland Urban Interface Code, in certain situations, you may be required to do Zone 1 and 2. And I'll show you where you can find that on the county website as well. Ann's going to get into the GoKits and stuff, and I'm just going to talk briefly about what you need to do before a fire even happens, and then what you should do before you leave the house in the event of an evacuation. Sam, are you you're holding all questions to the end? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we'll do that.
Okay, cool. So if anyone has any questions on just basic defensible space, we can answer that at the end. But the defensible space, it's pretty property specific and fuel type specific. So there's not like, this is just a guideline. There's not really like one hard answer for every single situation. But this is just a basic guideline, giving you a good starting point for your defensible space around your property. But we'll talk about, this is the ready section. This talks about everything that you should do before a fire even happens. This is stuff that everyone should be working on now or have already worked on. But the big thing is having this family disaster plan it talks about right here. Okay. In a large-scale fire, you have to think about the fact that your cell phone may not work. So if you're at home and you have other family in town and stuff like that, and there's an evacuation, where can you meet? Where can you meet your family? Do you guys have a safe meeting place that's not at home? Something like that. If all else fails, meet here or meet wherever. Have that in there so that you guys can be. So that your whole family can be safe and ready to meet up with each other. And we'll get into that emergency supply kit, like a go bag type deal. But ensure that everybody knows where that kind of stuff is. If your teenage son or daughter is at home alone, do they know what to grab before they leave if you're in town? You should have a list of equipment that you need to bring with you, supplies, equipment. You have all your important documents in one spot that's easy to grab, somewhere secure but quick enough to get to in the event of an evacuation. Put a list on the refrigerator or on the door, somewhere like that, of stuff that needs to be taken out of the house. Not everything in the kitchen sink, but all your important stuff. And it talks about having pre-programmed your GPS with multiple escape routes. If you have multiple escape routes in your area, that's a good idea. And then invest in a battery-operated AM radio or FM radio or a weather alert radio. That's a great one to have. A weather alert radio, it'll drive you completely crazy in the summer because it's going to go off for every time there's a flash flood warning, which out here happens all the time. But it's also going to give you any evacuations or anything like that in your area. And that's generally one of the first methods that's put out, that and the reverse 911 system. If anybody is not familiar with the reverse 911 system, it's in place nationally. So anywhere in the country, we can, the local dispatch, fire department, police can pick an area, and it'll call the home phone, and that's the home phone only, and let you know if there's an evacuation in place. If you want your cell phone subscribed to that, I'll type it into the chat here. You need to go to smart911.com and register your cell phone to your address. Okay, you need to go to that, and it's also on the last page of this Ready, Set, Go. But you'll need to register that if you want your cell phone. Registered to your house, or if you have a family member that lives alone as well, they can, if they want to register on Smart 911 too, they can also put your phone number in there as an alert in case they were to dial 911 for some reason. It will notify you if a family member dials 911 if they choose to do that. Okay, so that's some of the stuff that you should have ready before there's any kind of fire, before even fire season, really. And but if you don't have that stuff ready now, it's not too late. start working on that, and I'll talk about that GoKit, which falls into this Get Ready section. Now I'm going to briefly talk about this is the set section. This is stuff that you should do in the event of an evacuation. In the event of evacuation, stuff you should do before you leave the house. Right here, go, get set and go. So make sure you're closed. If there is an evacuation, make sure you go through your list that we talked about earlier. Grab all the stuff. That you need out of the house. Important documents. If you have pets, you know, a little bit of pet food. Be sure to get your pets a pet carrier. Have that available. All that kind of stuff. Be sure you're closing curtains, shutters if you have them. Most people don't around here. Turn off the propane tank if you can, if there's a threat of fire. Leave your porch light on. That's for us so that we can easily identify your house if it gets to be nighttime, or if there's a large smoke impact. It helps us see the house a little easier, especially in more rural communities. And just make sure that you have that list, because it will get really stressful, and the chances of you forgetting something are pretty high if you don't have that list. And make sure to take account of all your family members. You know, if you don't have people at home, get to that meeting spot that we talked about earlier, and account for all your family members. Sam, that's about all that I have. If you have anything else for me.
No, I don't think so. So there's not a whole lot of people, so we could unmute people, or if anyone has any questions for Remy, type that in the chat box. Let's see here. Okay, so anyone should be able to unmute themselves if they'd like to ask Remy a question, or like I said, type it in. And if there aren't any questions, we'll go ahead and move to Anne, and there'll be more time for questions at the end. Great. Well, so thanks, Remy. That was awesome. I think you covered a lot there. And let's move on to Anne. And if any questions pop into your head while Anne's giving her presentation, we can always come back.
Awesome. Hey, thanks everyone. Thanks, Sam, and thank you, Port, for throwing that stuff in the chat, that link in the chat box. Oh, someone said really quick. Someone said, "What do you recommend as a meeting place?" Somewhere away from the house, something that would most likely not be in an evacuation area. Like if you lived in, let's just say, for example, Cañada de los Alamos, right? Maybe your meeting place is somewhere on the other end of Santa Fe, you know, over towards the 599 corridor. It could be anywhere. It could be as easy as a freeway exit, you know, where you could meet in your cars and then figure out where you're going from there.
Great.
Do you recommend a contingency meeting place if the first one doesn't work out? Yeah, that can be a good idea. The one thing that you want to worry about on that one is that if one person's at one and the other one's at the other, right? So maybe if you have your meeting place and you say within X amount of time, a few hours, or that one's inaccessible, then go to the contingency one. Just be careful, because in today's age, especially with social media, there's always a lot of people in the public posting incorrect information. Like someone might post, oh, you know, I-25 is closed going south, when that may not be the case. There might have just been a traffic jam for a minute. So just be careful of that.
So hi, I'm Ann Church. I'm with Villages of Santa Fe, and I work with the Greater Santa Fe Fireshed. We got involved a few years ago because we're very interested in seniors being prepared for emergencies and understand that, as Remington was pointing out, that it's a very high stressful time if you have to leave or you think you might have to leave your house. So I'm talking about GoKits and emergency planning. And what has this emergency taught us? You know, 20 years ago, this was on the New Mexican earlier this week. You know, what has history taught us? This happens quickly. It happens in a very stressful time. But the most interesting thing was when when the COVID-19 emergency hit us full on, there's no way to get emergency supplies. Just-in-time inventory does not work in an emergency. There were no masks. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt your presentation, but right now your screen is in between like presentation mode and, well, I don't know, it's not showing very clearly on your PowerPoint.
Okay, let me try something because let's see. Is that better?
Much better, yes.
Okay, let me move this out of the way. All righty. That's working okay?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so once we started with the COVID emergency, there were no way to get emergency supplies, no masks, no gloves, no hand sanitizer, and no toilet paper. So just-in-time inventory does not work in any emergency, whether it be one where you have to leave your home or one you have to stay in your home. So the interesting thing is I actually had a supply of masks and gloves and hand sanitizer, and I was actually able to share those with people that needed them. You know, so prepare and keep your family safe. Fires can happen quickly. Shelter in place or evacuation, but prepare for evacuation. The Paradise 911 operators did not know there was an evacuation order, so the residents weren't told to evacuate. So the situation there is be self-reliant. The first 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 5 hours of an emergency, the responders are working the fire. They're trying to determine what they need to have as far as inventory and resources, and they're really not available for going house to house to help you evacuate. So what are your evacuation routes? And we suggest having at least 2. I live on a 1-car wide typical Santa Fe street, and either could get blocked from a fire coming up from the canyon, or an emergency vehicle, or even a vehicle getting stuck in the street itself. So it's best just to go. I plan to, if there's an emergency and I get an alert from 911, from my smart 911, I'm going to take my car out of the garage, point it toward the street, and load it up. Getting trapped could kill me or you. So being prepared means being equipped with the proper supplies. Keep your supplies in an easy to carry emergency preparedness kit that you can use at home or take with you. This is my K-Swiss big duffel bag, and it contains most of my emergency supplies. And if I have to leave, if I throw that in the car, I know that I've got masks, I have water, I have emergency supplies. So play the GoKit game with yourself. If I had to live out of my car for 72 hours, what do I need? I need gas. Getting stuck on the highway or a back road is very dangerous. So during high season fire or flood, go ahead and keep your car at least halfway full. Water and food. We know we can survive with water. We don't have to have food, but food is also good. I have some suggestions. So if you're on the road and you can't get to a hotel or a friend's house, where can you create a safe space? Protection from the elements, keeping your family, your pets safe, warm, and protected. And if you are on the road, what about sanitation? You've got to think about that. And then communication, both incoming and outgoing. And as we were saying, don't rely on your cell phone. Towers could be jammed, fires could be taking down the towers. Have a good local map. Don't depend on Google Maps to get you where you need to go. If you come up on I-25 and it is a parking lot, where do you go from there? You want to make sure that if you get on the road to another road, whether it be 14 or 285 or something, that you're getting on a road that's safe, that actually will get you out of the area. So after an emergency, you may have to, or during an emergency, you may have to survive on your own for several days. So that means food, water, supplies, and that's what a disaster kit is, a collection of those basic items. You know, we have a really good list. This is from ready.gov. Make sure your emergency kit is stocked with items on the checklist. Sam is going to be loading up this presentation, which has all the links to the lists and ideas. But also consider what are unique needs for your family, such as medications, oxygen, if you have an elder person on oxygen, their needs and that kind of thing, their pets or your seniors. Basic disaster supplies. Now, we're talking about this radio. This is one, they're $30. Not only can you get the weather information, but it also has a flashlight. It has a strobe light to locate you if you're lost so somebody can see that light. It also will charge your cell phone. So that is another thing that's really important. So if you are out for 48 hours and your phone is about to die, this little radio has a solar panel or a crank where you can actually crank up your cell phone. And also that also gives you the weather information. It gives you the alert information. And again, a flashlight and a way to stay connected, both incoming and outgoing communication. With water, the suggested is 1 gallon per person per day for at least 5 days. I have big 2.5 gallon water jugs that I rotate on a regular basis and keep those full. That's a good thing to suggest. Trying to carry around, cases of individual water is a little tough. Food, at least 3 days supply of non-perishable food. I think what we've learned in this emergency, I've kind of gone through all my beans and a lot of things that have been sitting in the supplies, because you also want to rotate those and keep them fresh. Again, the battery crank radio. This has a flashlight. I also have external flashlights, a first aid kit, extra batteries, a whistle. The N95 dust mask, as I mentioned, when this COVID emergency came up, I had actually had a box of those and I was able to share those with people that needed them. Mylar sheeting and duct tape. Oh my gosh, you can do the world with those things. You can make a blanket, you can make a tent, you can make a tarp. You can cover the back part of your car so you can sleep in your car. I have probably 5 or 6 of those little Mylar sheets in the GoKit and plenty of duct tape. For sanitation, I bring in moist towelettes, garbage bags, and plastic ties. We have thinking about tools. We've talked about turning off utilities. If you know where those are in your GoKit, you're not running around your garage looking for them. A manual can opener for your food, a local map, and a cell phone with chargers. As you can see from my picture here, we've got the Mylar blankets, we've got the N95. The thing in the middle is actually a Mylar pouch where you can actually get into it to keep warm. Additional supplies, soap, hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, as we've learned from this last emergency, sanitation is a hard thing to keep up with when you're on the road. It's very important. Prescription medications. One of the things we've found with seniors is sometimes they're reluctant to leave their home. They may be on multiple medications. They may be on oxygen. So plan for that so that you can safely evacuate their seniors and that they don't feel fearful when they're leaving. Because if you wait, you could lose the chance to evacuate. In my pack, I also have non-prescription medication, diarrhea medication, antacids, pain relievers, prescription eyeglasses and contact solution. Think about if you have children, if you need formula, bottles, all of those things, pet food and extra water for your pet. It may be difficult to get cash. So if you have the ability to stockpile a few $100s, that would probably be really beneficial. The other thing is important documents. I have a box that's called my life book, and it has everything. It has my insurance policies. It has my banking information. It has information on contact and passwords and such, so that if I have to leave, all of that goes into my box and I leave and I can be able to recreate my life should I have to do so. Additional supplies, sleeping bag, change of clothes where it's appropriate for the climate. If we're in the summer, we can still get an evening. The other night, it was 48 degrees after the weather came through. You cannot be out in 48 degrees without proper clothing. A fire extinguisher would be good, matches, supplies and personal hygiene items. I also have paper plates, cups. What are you going to eat out of? Paper and pencil. And if you've got to keep kids or yourself engaged, books, games, and puzzles for the kids. I carry in my GoKit some other things. Recently, I was thinking about being stranded over like a 2-day period where it'd be cold. And we're talking about nothing more than 40. So you're talking about a hat, socks, gloves would really be really important at that point. I have our New Mexico transportation map from the Department of Transportation, which is really, really good. You can get those free. I also have underneath that map is a list of all the things that should be in my GoKit. It's not only lists the things that are in my GoKit, but also the things that I might need to get that I wouldn't always be in my GoKit, like my important papers and prescription medications. I don't keep in my GoKit, but I need to remind myself in that emergency to go and get those. It also, on that list of items that is in my GoKit, it has a list of emergency numbers. It has the city of Santa Fe Fire Department. It has non-emergency numbers. It has the Red Cross numbers. And those numbers are on the list that you can download. And so that's nice to have. Again, when you go back to food and water, water, at least, a gallon per person. Food, things that you can eat easily, cereal, tuna, trail mix. I've got Velveeta, mac and cheese cups. I have gummy bears. Come on, they're good for you. I also, next to my GoKit, I have another box that has a small camp stove, a pot for cooking, and a can of burn utensils, so that hopefully I'm home and I can grab those. But as Remy pointed out, if you've got somebody else at home, they would need to know to grab these and take them with you if I were gone. Maintaining your kit. Remember, after assembling your kit, it's important to maintain it so it's ready when you need it. Keep your food in a cool, dry place. I use not only a duffel bag, but you saw my food was in a big plastic tin that has a lid, a snap-on lid, which is pretty close, and it's not completely sealed, but it's better than being just open in a plastic or a paper bag. Replace your expired items as needed. And rethink your needs every year and update your kit as your family's needs change. As I said, recently I actually have my GoKit out, and I've been rotating all the items such as the beans and crackers and things like that that are in there and using them now, and I'll replace them with new product. Kit storage locations. If you don't know where you're going to be, prepare supplies for both homework and for your car. And so in my home, I have a space in my garage that is a designated space, and I have it ready. That's where my extra water and everything is kept. Everybody knows where it is. At work, what if you had to shelter and work for 24 hours? What you need there, you might check with your work environment to see what they have. And in my car, as again, I said, I keep that duffel bag in my car and ready to, and with me at all times. So again, the references, you know, you can go to the Greater Santa Fe Fireshed Coalition. This GoKit information is from ready.gov.kit, and you can also go to Villages of Santa Fe. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Anne. I really appreciate that. It was really helpful. Now I'm just going to open up if there's any questions if anyone has any questions for Anne or Remy, and go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Or if you're muted, there we go.
Oh yeah. No, I don't know if you anybody else has any other further advice. We did post the links to the Ready Set Go stuff, and we also have this recorded, and we'll be sharing those. Mary's asking if there are any evacuations posted anywhere, and I don't believe there are. Remy, do you know if there's any evacuation routes posted?
There's only one place in the country where there's evacuation routes posted, in Florida for tsunamis, because it's always uphill. But other than that, it's impossible to predict where a fire is going to come from, so there are no evacuation routes posted. No.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's so incident specific and will be defined by that. That's why I think you and I have been promoting Ready, Set, Go and Alert Santa Fe, and to sign up for that 911 system, because that's the system the city and the county is going to use in order to relay that information about evacuations and which way to go. Most of you out there who live there, you know where, you know the roads, you know which way you could go. Those are some things, like Ann pointed out, of playing that what if game, thinking about that in your own neighborhood, knowing those roads, traveling those roads, and playing the game yourself, and thinking about where you would go in the event of an evacuation, or if you felt like you needed to evacuate. I let people know that you don't wait for the fire department or anybody to tell you when to go. That's totally up to you to decide. If you feel like you're in an unsafe place, grab your GoKit and head down the road. It's definitely better to be too soon than too late. So we have a couple questions on when might we do a sim table demo. Though that might be something that we can think about doing for a webinar. We did have some sim table demonstrations last fall, and we may want to try and do that in person again when we can do those in person, but maybe there's a way we can share that virtually, and we'll just have to work through how that looks, and if that makes sense to try and do that. If for those of you that don't know, the sim table is a simulation that's run in your neighborhood, and it has all the background vegetation in it, and then we run fire across it, and you can kind of see how fast the fire moves, where it's most likely to go, and then kind of figure out from where that is, where you would go in an evacuation kind of scenario. Let's see. Oh, somebody's asking for a link to a local Santa Fe map, and also what brand of radio do you recommend? I'm not sure. Ann, do you have a radio brand?
You know, I just bought this off of Amazon. There was one that was $59.95 and this one was $29.95. And I got it. I thought if it really doesn't seem to work what I want and do what I want, I'd get the more expensive one. But this one just seems to be fine. It does. I really do want it to be able to have a solar panel and recharge my phone. It has the flashlight and the blinking light, so that I worry about if somehow I get off road, you know, I could use this for an emergency light as well. So I really don't have a recommendation. It just depends on how, if you want to spend the $30 or the $60, to be honest with you. The local map is not just a Santa Fe map. You need a New Mexico map, because if you're having to evacuate Santa Fe, you need to look at your options on roads going out of Santa Fe. I got ours. I got a whole stack of them from the Department of Transportation. It took me almost a month to get them because they don't always have them in stock. But we just showed up at the DOT over on Cerrillos, and we eventually got about 40 of those maps. They're very, very good maps. You can buy them obviously online or REI, but you can get them for free at the Department of Transportation.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good point about the radios. It's more about the features that you want, like your, you know, solar powered, the hand crank, a flashlight on there. That way, you know, you have some things that you can use in multiple ways.
You know, Sue asked about Amazon has emergency kits for sale. There are a number of them. The Red Cross sells them. Other entities sell them. When I was making GoKits for our event last May, I probably spent $300 to $400, and I made 5 really big GoKits with everything that I thought was in they needed except for the radio. And so that was under $100 a piece. And most of the good GoKits are going to run you $150 to $250 a piece. So I like creating my own because I play that what if game. And also the what if game is different here than it is in Florida or something like that. When I look at having to evacuate in the wintertime or during inclement weather here, you honestly think that, do I need another change of clothes? But maybe not. Maybe you just need, hey, go dig in your ski box and get out that long underwear and an extra pair of gloves and socks and a hat. You know, that's not going to come in an emergency kit that you buy online.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense. And the Ready Set Go, that brochure has some of those checklists in the back there to think about items that you want in your Go kit, which is a good starting place. And like you said, playing the what if game is always helpful in thinking through some of the things that you might need specifically that aren't on those checklists, but that you're aware of, and writing things out.
And you know, we've evolved. I mean, I've gone from this GoKit being for an evacuation kit for thinking about that, wow, I used a good bit of what was in there just during this issue of sheltering in place.
Well, all right. I think we're pretty much to the end. I don't know if anybody else or other presenters have any other final thoughts before we end. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Like Sam did say, we are recording this, and we'll be sharing that recording. If you registered for this, you should get an email with that, as well as you can find it on the SantaFeFireshed.org website. But thank you, everybody, and thank you, Remy and Ann, for presenting.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.